Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden.
And last week I got called out for closing my eyes when I did the introduction, so I'm going to do the rest of the podcast like this, I think.
What, did you? Who? I didn't do that, did I?
I don't know, it was someone. Someone sent me. It might have been my sister, I don't know. It's usually my sister making some kind of comment about the podcast, but you know.
And how good I am, yeah.
Yeah, clearly. Anyway, let's go back to that straight away. Jeez, we've been here 2 seconds. Hayden, this week we are coming towards the end of the summer holidays, so we're going to have a bit of a chat about getting back into the groove of things, getting back in September. I'm really excited, but before we dance into talking about that, as always, the people want to know, Hayden, the famous question: how's your week, pal?
Well, thanks for asking. It's been all right. It's a week that to me and you, I guess now, is very much a symbol of the end of the summer holidays because we've been running our summer club. So if you listen to episode 6, we talked about the fact that we run a tutoring business as well, which I won't go into loads now, but it is a particularly special week for us because we run a summer club. And I just wanted to give a shout out really to our tutors because we have a team of teachers who work with us and they are incredible, genuinely incredible. Like every year we're just blown away really of how good they are at doing it. And this year has been the most sort of smooth and seamless one because I think all of our tutors bar one this year have done our sort of summer club last year and they just get stuck in. Yeah, so just want to pick them up. Thank you guys. We appreciate you, and it's been a really smooth week. So that's taken up a lot of our sort of mind space and time. We've been on the sidelines just helping out with that, running everything. But also today was quite a fun day. Dylan came round my house. We were going to record the podcast earlier on in the day. It's the evening now, and I looked outside. It was sunny. You know, we don't get that many really sunny days really, so I just said, come on, let's go outside, let's do something with our girlfriends. So do you know what we did? We played table tennis for 4 hours and they sat in the sun.
They sat in the shade talking about whatever they want to talk about. I don't know. It did not, I'm going to say right now, it did not feel like we were listeners, watchers, viewers, whoever you are, customers, not called you customers in a while. Customers. We were genuinely playing. We were genuinely playing table tennis for like 3.5 hours straight. And you know when you get in your zone, I don't know. I might talk about this later. Actually, it's one of the things I'm talking about when we start school again. But having this kind of ability to step into a different mindset where I was not thinking about anything else. It was absolutely bliss. And for me, that's any kind of like competitive sport, or it could be like a game or something. That is where I get into my zone and I find that so good for my well-being. It sounds really silly. People listening might be like, what are you on about? Like 3 hours of table? No, but it really does clear my brain and I don't think about or worry about anything else. Don't know about you.
Well, yeah, because all you're thinking about is the strategy and winning because you're a very competitive person. So obviously you want to win. Like, it's not a bad thing. And I think everyone needs that really. And probably most people do have something where they're like, oh yeah, that's the thing I like to do. And you might not have thought about it before, but it's probably because it completely takes your mind off everything else and you can be totally zoned in on that thing, whether it's watching a program or speaking of programs, I've been very excited.
Well, I thought you had mentioned this when I asked you how was your week because you've not stopped going on about it.
So this is really sad, but Game of Thrones, it's been out for a long time. But my girlfriend Lauren has never watched it, and I have always said, "Oh, we should watch it at some point," because it's one of those things that if you like Game of Thrones, if you like that kind of fantasy world, it's one of the best. Obviously, excluding the last season, we all ignore the last season because it's absolutely terrible. But up till then, it's really good and worth watching. And she finally caved and was like, "Yeah, go on then." She's bloody loving it. She is loving it. We are so addicted. We've been watching it for 4 days. First season done. So I've been thoroughly enjoying that.
I actually can't believe you've done that to her, knowing how terrible the ending is. That is like a form of like some kind of neglect there that you're just saying, let's get you loving this show, which I know ends horrendously. But let her enjoy the ride for sure. Let her enjoy the ride.
I did say though, I gave a disclaimer at the start. I said, look, if you like it or not, you have to have really, really, really low expectations for the last season. And it will be worse than even those expectations. Like it will be. It's just so terribly dreadful.
Do you like?
It, but
do you like resolution in the stories you watch? Yes, tough. Well, you're not getting it. You're not getting any of that.
Do you like stories where they spend 7 seasons elegantly, very slowly, meticulously going through these incredible journeys of all these characters for them to then just do more than that within one season, and they travel everywhere and do this, that happens, and it's just completely pointless and rubbish.
Yeah. Oh, you do? Like, watch Game of Thrones stuff. It's fantastic.
Just watch the last season.
On that note of like shows and stuff, because I know we were literally speaking about this earlier, and you spoke about this idea of having a show to watch that you're really invested in, that you know you can binge, is such an unbelievable feeling. But you can explain it in a second. But we're currently going through that in a minute with Netflix. Anyone who's got Netflix, you might have watched Lincoln Lawyer. It's one of those shows where it's really, really easy to watch. It's not like ridiculously super clever, and you haven't got to, massively pay attention and work things out yourself. It's just a nice, easy watch with some twists and turns, and it's just usually, someone's committed a crime, and you work out the case with the lawyer as it goes through. And it's just one of them. We watched 3 in a row the other day. 3 in a row. Like, I would never sit down and watch a 3-hour film. I would just be like, whatever. I just don't think I've got the attention span. But this really hooked me. It's just like, yeah, another one. And they're so good, aren't they, at these shows of doing the perfect cliffhanger. It's almost like the first 5 minutes resolves the cliffhanger from last time. Then they have 50 minutes of like fluff. And it's just like, oh yeah, see you, mate, stuff. And at the end, 5 minutes of, oh my gosh, this thing's about to happen. And then it doesn't. And it's like the perfect combination to get me to watch the next hour.
Yeah, it just makes you feel happy. I don't like being bored. And neither does Lauren. We're really, really bad at being bored. Like, our mood immediately just hits rock bottom when we've not got something to do or look forward to. So when your backup is a show that you enjoy watching, and you've got lots of it to watch, it's great, because it's like, even when you're bored, it's like, oh, we'll just do that thing then. But it's hard not to binge watch it so fast that you run out of episodes.
And when it's a household where you're on summer holidays, it's very easy to get into them ruts, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about that in last episodes. Go and check it out. We were talking about, the ups and downs of, well, I suppose the pros and cons really of holidays and things, and how someone was saying that it can be quite lonely as a teacher, because you might not necessarily have, your friends might not be off as well, and you can get a bit bored. And I certainly suffer from it in holidays, getting a bit down. But not when we've got table tennis and Game of Thrones.
I was going to say, there was no danger of you getting bored today. Jesus. And we won't speak about who won table tennis.
Yeah. It was close. It was close. I won about 19 games. You won about 1. That was all right.
All right. Anyway.
Something like that. It was close.
Anyway. Won't worry about that too much. Okay. But yeah, I was thinking about how our weeks have been, and I was like, they've pretty much overlapped, haven't they, this week? I feel like we've spent an ungodly amount of time together. Normally we say the podcast is us catching up, but... Yeah,
I suppose because of our summer club, obviously we've been spending all morning just being around for that and doing some work. Just one of those weeks, isn't it?
One of those weeks, mate. One of those weeks. Well, I was hoping to kind of bring up the fact that today I wore my hat. And the reason I wanted to talk about me wearing my hat is, hey, I don't know if you've noticed this. I don't know if you've noticed this before, but I've got quite a big head.
Oh, have you? Sorry, I'll react again. Oh, do you? I've never noticed that.
You're supposed to say no, you don't. It's normal for your...
Oh,
son.
Yeah, no, you don't. God, I buggered that right.
Anyway,
sorry.
I know my head's big. So anyone else with a big head, I don't know if I'm talking to no one here who listens. You've all probably got normal sized heads. It's absolutely fine. But summer, it's just a nightmare. It's a nightmare. But not anymore, Hayden, because I found that they do hats in XXL size, and that is perfect for my head. So as soon as I found one that fit, I've now got about 4.
I'm hoping you have them here for the viewers of the podcast.
You see this little bit of tuft here? Anyone who's watching, okay? For those listening, I'll describe it to you. There's my hair. It's called hat hair. I've got a massive tuft here where my hair's been compressed down. Hayden, you're going to have to talk and maybe commentate on this and be really vivid, because, there are people who just listen and don't watch. I know you always forget that, but I'm just going to put my headphones off, so I won't be able to hear you, okay? Genuinely, listeners, I'm worried because I will not be able to hear him. Yeah. So from now, I'm taking my headphones off now. I might still speak. Actually, I won't, because I don't want to speak over you, Hayden. But I can't hear from now, and I'm putting the hat on, okay?
Brilliant. So at the moment, you're looking at a 30-year-old man, and you'll soon see a transformation. It's very interesting. Oh, look, toddler. There he is. He looks like a toddler now. He's wearing a hat. He's very happy. He's very, very happy. He has been wearing it all day, and he wore it the whole day that he bought it as well, despite being inside. And he's fashioning it now. Looks really good. Taking it. Oh, back to a 30-year-old. Fantastic.
Was it really nice? Were you talking nicely about me?
Yeah, really good. I was just saying how it really sort of suits your age.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's like... Can't detect any sarcasm there whatsoever. Fashion?
No, not at all.
Fashionable.
Yeah.
But do you know what, Hayden?
Yeah.
No, don't think you're harder than the sun. SPF is no joke, okay? You get a hat that stops the sun. But you should know, mate, of anyone.
Yeah, I know. I've been wearing a hat all day, but my hat hair is a little bit less noticeable. So
hair.
Mm.
Are you growing?
Check out my beard.
Are you growing a beard? Yeah, I was gonna.
Yeah. So I've grown it back, guys.
Yeah.
Again, if you're not watching, I mean, even if you're not watching, you can probably hear it because it's so voluptuous. As you can see, any good beard is you know it's a sign of a good beard when you can actually count the number of hairs on the side. Dylan's jealous, obviously, because he's got one of those stupid beards. You know, beards that grow.
Oh yeah,
you know one of those really silly beards, and it's like, oh, you look so foolish.
You know those silly beards that actually cover where the beard's supposed to cover. Honestly.
Yeah. Oh man, they look so dumb. Whereas this one, it's like, I don't know. It's the new fashion.
Yeah, it's it's self-styled. Some people like cut in a goatee and stuff. Yours is there already. You got it, no problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are digressing. We are really going off topic. You can tell we spent a lot of time with each other this week. We're digressing into this right now. But do you know what? I am genuinely really excited to talk about this because starting in September, it is just around the corner. It's always sad, isn't it, when your time off comes to an end? But I don't know about you. I do get excited, and I'm starting to get excited. I do look forward to meeting my new class. So shall we, Hayden, do a little jingle, make a joke about the jingle that we always do, and just dive into talking about how to hit the ground running this September.
Let's do that. I'll be back after the jingle. Just going to start off by saying Dylan, as we were playing the jingle there, is drinking out of what seems to be some sort of Viking flask, as you can see on the screen right now. You know what, Dylan? I've never seen that in your house, but really? Why do you have this? Why do you suddenly have this? Look at it.
It's not sudden. This was a gift. End of year gift last year.
Oh, fair enough. That makes sense. Oh, what is it? A ship?
Yeah, it's a ship of some sort. I don't know, but it's really nice. Like, it's great for a pint. You put a pint in there. If any beer companies are listening and want to send us a free wine for us to drink during the podcast, you want to sponsor us, let us know, because we're currently sponsored by Southeastern Water.
We're going to be those guys that drink a beer, like comedians that just have a beer.
It's not us,
and they have the can.
Yeah. It doesn't really fit, does it? If we're having a beer talking about doing a display in a primary classroom, it doesn't really fit.
Yeah.
Maybe we should
save the beers for the classrooms. Tip number one later on. Sneaky one there.
Spoiled it, Hayden. You spoiled it. Jeez.
Yeah.
No, we're going to be doing our top 3 tips. I've got Hayden and I to talk about our top 3 tips to hit the ground running in September. But I just want to start off because, again, this week I've been talking to a lot of people online, especially on Threads. I'm loving Threads. Threads is so chill compared to Twitter and stuff like that. And you actually have conversations with people. I've been really enjoying it. So if you're listening to this and you follow us on Threads, do give us a little message, at us. Let us know you're listening, because I do really love it. And it's one of those genuinely raw experiences where you get to just meet other teachers and educators.
Why do you reckon that is? Why is that? Because we haven't got, it's not like we've got tons more followers on that than anything else.
I think if you're on Threads, I think you're more active. With Threads at the minute, there's not a lot of people on there active, right? Because loads signed up. But if you're on Threads currently and active and talking and engaging with people and following them, your timeline is less dense. With with Twitter and stuff, I don't know about you, I think 9/10 of my tweets are random people I've never seen before. What I find Threads is really good at is it puts content in front of you, the people you follow, and it's just more text based. It's more chilled out. You don't feel like you're missing out on anything if you don't go on there for a day, because you can probably catch up within 10 minutes of scrolling. It's not overwhelming, and I think the people on there are on there for a conversation. Whereas,
I was going to say that makes more sense, because if you're going to go doom scrolling, you're just looking at content or whatever. You're going to go on Instagram or something like that that's well established. Yeah. You're not going to go on Threads. If you're going on Threads, you go in there to actually use the app. So makes sense, I suppose. And where can they find us on our various social medias?
So on Threads, it is the same as our Instagram. So at Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast. I always get this wrong. At Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast. Okay, Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast. That's our Instagram and our Threads. Find us on there. We're on Twitter, but I don't really like Twitter. I'm not going to lie. I've never really got on with it. It's good, for you can get retweet. Yeah, X. Jeez, you can retweet or re-X or whatever the hell Elon Musk wants to call it. I don't know. The less to talk about, the better. But I'm enjoying Threads. I'm enjoying Instagram. But the point is, I had a lot of people talking to us about this. So not a lot of people listening will be going back in September as well. I know some people are already back. I think Leicester are already back or something like that because they went off early. But I don't know. I want to be really positive, because we fall into this trap, don't we? Or there's this cycle of being like, oh, we want to complain. Isn't TikTok toxic? All these people doing this nice stuff. And I really want to just clarify some bits, because I see a lot of accounts now where it's just teachers outside of school time sharing some cool stuff. Like, I don't begrudge that at all. I don't want anyone to think that I sit there and resent that, because I think that's really cool. I think that's really nice. I think that's helpful for a lot of people. And there's a lot of well-being people out there who are doing really amazing things with TikToks and short form content. And I think maybe we were a bit generic and blunt and not specific enough last time. I don't want anyone to think that TikTok bad. No, obviously not. But those specific things we talked about. But anyway, Hayden, we are going back to school very soon. It'll be like our 8th year, 9th year, something like that. I mean, we're getting old now. How do you feel though? And how does it compare to when you were a newly qualified teacher?
Way more chill, to be honest with you. I feel, I don't know why. Is that from my experience, or is it because I've become more stubborn over the years and I'm just like, no, it's my summer holidays, you know, or more confident that I'll just be okay. But way more chill. I know that my first few years of teaching, I would have spent so much of the summer, if not doing something for school, thinking about it and fretting over it. Whereas I can genuinely say, and still to this minute right here, I switched off the day we left school, and I have not even remotely thought about it yet, because I've just said to myself, in that last week, I'll do what I need to do. I know it will be more than enough time to get what I need to get done. And until then, I'm not even going to think about it. I don't care. Not worried about it. It'll be fine. But yeah, there's no way. My first year of teaching, second, third, maybe even fourth year, I would have just spent the entire summer being annoyed at the idea, but also just worrying constantly. What about you? How do you feel?
No, I feel fine. I suppose I kind of want to separate the whole feeling in summer, because I'm the same as you. Like, you know, that has changed a lot since I was an NQT. My almost, you know, summer apprehension of got to get things done, because like we spoke about in the last episode to death, we know things that have to get done will get done, and we know what to do well and what's more important priority wise, and what we want to spend time on doing and what we don't. But I suppose I mean more, how are you literally feeling about getting back in front of children and teaching them and meeting your new class? Because that's the raw bit for me that hasn't really changed since I was an NQT, which I'm really pleased about, and probably is what keeps me coming back to this job, because it is easy to be very negative and fall into that kind of trap. And you're right, like there's things we can do as we become more experienced to stop fretting so much, but there's only so much we can do when maybe there's like school leaders in certain schools imposing that on you. But what I think I'd really buzz about, and I've like got a smile on my face already, because I can't wait to be back stood in front of my class, talking to them, getting to know them, teaching them, and doing what we love doing. And I've missed doing that.
Oh, well, yeah. So thinking of that then, nothing but positive. I am so excited. And that has not changed. You're right. Over the years, I think I'm as excited as I've always been about meeting my new class. Definitely. But I like the performance. I like that. Like, I do think teaching, there's an element of acting and performing involved in it, and I just love it. I don't know what it is about.
What do you mean? Like, what specifically are you acting up to in terms of? Is it?
I guess it's my teacher personality. It's the side of me that I want to show and share with the children, because obviously, for 99% of adults, that cannot be all of you, because it's just not appropriate. That you're obviously going to have an adult life that is not appropriate for children. So you pick and choose the parts that you share with your class. And I love that bonding experience so much. And I'll perform and I'll play up to certain aspects of my personality, or things that I'll be doing on purpose, because I just think it's good for my role as a teacher that maybe I wouldn't even do in real life. You know, I might ham up more of my personality. I probably wouldn't be like that if I was speaking to my parents or something like that. But, you know, with the kids, and I love it, and seeing them smile for the first time, or seeing that like realization in their face that I'm not horrible.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. Like, oh, I'm fair, and I'll be kind to you, and I care about you, and all that sort of stuff. And when the kids are like, oh yes, it's like they're always like pleased and happy that I've got a nice, like someone that's going to be nice to them. I don't know. I just love it. I love that feeling. It's probably quite selfish, really, because I like the fact that it makes me feel good.
Yeah, well,
that they like me, I guess.
There's that whole saying, there's no such thing as an unselfish act. You know, you always want something to come back to.
Yeah, of course.
But I completely agree with you. Like, it's that absolute buzz of building that bond with your children. Like, I absolutely love it. And you made a really good point there of when they realize like the person you're going to be to them, and when it's a positive thing. That is such a huge, like, that's when I know that, I've succeeded in the first term. When they think, okay, and it's very separate to behavior. You can have boundaries and stuff like that. And again, we'll talk about this in a second. But that bond that you can make in that first term and really excite them and make them happy and make them so glad to be in school and in your classroom, that is such an important starting point for me, because then all our expertise can come in. Then all our, what are we at the end of the day? Are trained professionals in teaching children. Okay, and we made this distinction last week about fun and learning, and you made a great point about how we seem to be moving towards maybe a more draconian, these are the facts we need to learn and we're going to revive them, blah, blah, blah. And I think
recite the knowledge.
Yeah, but I do think that is our job as professionals in teaching children things and them learning. We're not professionals in the show that we talk about and the fun aspects, right? That's not really what we go to university for. It's something that a lot of teachers have, and you kind of need that passion. But for me, the exciting thing is merging those two things together. And I think what you say about being that person, that role model, that safe place for the children, that's what I love about the start of term, is establishing that.
Yeah, because they get to realize it. And also, I've met my class, because generally schools do a transition day or even a week in some schools, where at the end of term 6 before summer, you will meet your next class. So I've met my next class, and they are so nice. And that's always a buzz. And I will just say this, every class is different. Every class is different, and you will have a slightly different relationship with every single class you teach. And I think that's important to hear, especially if you're not very far into teaching, because it's very easy to blame yourself if you don't quite have the same connection with the class one year, and you're like, well, last year, I could do this and I could do that, and they didn't. And this year they're being really disrespectful when I do this sort of thing, and I can't seem to do that now. Am I just losing my touch? And you can feel a bit like that, but you have to remember every class is different. I've had both ends of the spectrums. I've had classes in the past where you just think, they're honestly just angels. Like, every single child in the class behaves so impeccably well. And it's nothing to do with me. It's just pure chance. And I've had other classes where the behavior has been very challenging. And there have been aspects of my performance and my personality that in the whole year, I haven't even got to show them one time, because it will get taken advantage of by groups of children, or even just one particular child sometimes can really change the atmosphere. And you just can't. And it's easy to be like, oh, it's just me. They just don't like me. I'm just different now. It's just whatever, but it's not necessarily that. So this new class that I've got seem really, really, really nice, like super polite. They were really like caring when I, you can just tell, can't you? Like even half an hour of teaching a class, like what kind of class they're going to be. Are they going to be really shouty? Are they going to be a bit rude? Are they going to be a few personalities that constantly dominate? And fingers crossed, I'm going to have a really like smooth, simple year, because they seem lovely.
Well, I've taught that bunch. I've taught that bunch, and they are absolutely lovely. That bunch you've got coming up to year 6, I taught in year 3 and in year 4. And
that's right.
They're just gorgeous. They're just gorgeous kids. And, I think that is a big part of the job. And I think what's important, to just double up on your point, is I think only as a more experienced teacher do you really learn that lesson. And I remember being a less experienced teacher and almost sometimes being frustrated, because schools can sometimes feel like it's just the more experienced you are, the more you step into roles, the better you become. And that, it's like a rite of passage, because you've been there 15 years. You're obviously going to be in line for the person who's been there 8 years and the person who's been there 4 years. And it can feel like that a lot of the time, rather than like a meritocracy of, well, I'm actually in this role because I'm better at doing this, maybe, even if I've not been teaching as long. But I do think teaching is unique in that there are so many lessons as a teacher that you can only learn from having 3, 4, 5 cohorts. And I think going through that dip and out the other end of really bonding with a class, getting to know them really quickly, and it just being like water off a duck's back. It's like you've been teaching them this whole time. Then having a class where it's different and you doubt yourself, but then again coming through it because you're more experienced and going through that phase again of, this cohort are different again, and I managed to grasp onto this thing and it was easier that way. Yeah. And then realizing, no, each year is so different, and that's a really important
because they're
tip.
People.
Yeah,
they're literally people. Especially if you're teaching like year 6, like I am, they're just like fully developed people. Do you know what I mean? In terms of you can have a full-on conversation with them about practically anything, and they'll be able to engage with that conversation. So yeah, like it makes sense that your personality as a person will connect with their personality as people more sometimes in some cases, or you connect with just generally more children easily than others. It's just the way it is. And everyone will have, I think anyone with a bit of experience in teaching, if I said to you right now, think of, I don't want to say favorite class because it sounds harsh, but think, what's the first class that comes to your mind? One that you reminisce on teaching. You'll be able to think of one. There'll be a group of children, or maybe a couple of years that comes to mind, and you might not even know what it is about it, but it's probably just that you developed real relationships with more of those children than perhaps in other classes because your personalities matched. And I love that about teaching. We're going to do a whole episode in the future. I know maybe even next week, I'm not sure, on the positives of teaching, because like you said, sometimes I don't want to come across too moany. We like to pull apart the stuff that's rubbish about the job, like every job,
of course.
But there are also some amazing things, and we're going to do an episode down in the future. But one more thing, you said something earlier about meritocracy. I feel like we should write this down. This could be a really interesting episode. Is teaching really? Is like the career, in terms of your career ladder, is it really a meritocracy, or is there more behind the scenes there? Because I think we can have a good debate about it not necessarily always being just a meritocracy in terms of people getting their jobs and roles and things. So that could be a juicy one.
Could it possibly be that in some schools there's such a thing as nepotism going on, where family members, get ahead of each other? I've heard lots of stories about that.
That happens a lot in all walks of life, to be honest with you. So there's no reason that it wouldn't happen in schools as well.
Definitely.
But certainly lots of things I think come into the playing field when it comes to getting jobs in schools. But we could talk about that in another episode. That'll be fun. Looking
forward to that. So kind of digging a bit deeper now. So obviously I think maybe that's a red flag as a teacher, that it's your time to maybe really positively think about looking for something else if it comes to September and you don't have that buzz anymore. I think for me, if that kind of flame had kind of been extinguished of, no, I'm really looking forward to meeting my kids, which I am, then I think, okay, well, what's left then? Because that is a big part of the job, is, being excited to actually deliver the core element. But yeah, I suppose diving a little bit deeper, and I'm going to draw on a lot of information I got from people on Threads when I asked them, and I said this lesson's all about hitting the ground running in September. Any top tips that you give people? And I suppose one thing just to start us off, because we're going to give our top tips later, but this is more generic, I suppose, now that we're going to get into. Ours are very specific. And there was this one idea, and it was all about the balance between getting into really good quality learning as quickly as possible. So just getting straight bang into it. Yeah, I'm gonna show you that I'm ready because I've made this fantastic lesson. I'm going to deliver it really well, and we're going to learn lots, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be engaging, and I'm going to show you what I'm here to do for you. But then also balancing that with setting routines, setting expectations, setting behavior. How would you go about that balancing act, potentially, especially if you're a less experienced teacher, Hayden? What would be your advice to someone? Should they spend a whole day in class setting these rules and expectations? Should we dive straight into learning? Where's that balance for you? Because I've got a very specific idea of what I like to do. So I don't know what your answer is. I wouldn't know what you said, to be honest. So what do you think? Yeah,
I think the culture generally is this kind of like ease in culture. I think in a lot of places you'll find that on day one we'll just do some like fun activities and some games and some icebreakers. But I've actually found from experience that the quicker you get into the bog standard normal routine, the better. And I didn't really believe in it at first. I was like, no, like, God, we've got all these days across the year. Let's just have a day where we can do some icebreakers and have some fun and show the kids that we're fun. But I have genuinely found that, and maybe it's just my experience, I could be wrong, but I have found that when I've done that, the children then have taken way longer to get into routines because they're just like, can we do that fun thing we did yesterday? Like, it's literally their first experience of you. Well, can we just do that? Because that was great. I want to do that. And now everything's rubbish compared to that. Whereas I found when you just get straight into it, you might have a moan for like, honestly, 5 minutes from the kids. Like, oh, we're doing English and maths today already. And you're like, yeah. And then they get over it. And then it's fine. And then the routines are set very, very quickly and they're just fine. I think that's better now. I'd probably lean more towards that. You can do things within the lessons to make them a little bit more easing in. But generally, getting straight into routines, I think, is the best way.
I think you've basically said exactly what I think. So that's promising in that. I think as you get more experience, you find that, again, there are going to be cohorts, and maybe even not cohorts, but specific children, maybe in rare cases where it might be better for them to ease themselves in some way if they've got certain needs or stuff. But I think on the whole, the best way to set expectations and routines is to do the routines and have those expectations whilst you're doing the thing you're in school to do. I think, cracking on as soon as possible, get into your classroom, You're going to teach some maths. Here's what we do in maths lesson. There's no point, I don't think, unless a very specific reason you've got, doing anything other than that. And some schools will do. Some people listening to this will be in schools where on the first day they're going to spend half a day in class and they're going to do some activities to get to know each other. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just talking about in terms of if we're giving the advice of how do you set routines and expectations early, I think you can make them really clear within 5 minutes. 90% of children are staying in the same school, so the expectations are exactly the same. They're not brand new. They're going to a new year group. They know the rules. Yeah. It's not. They don't suddenly. Wait, what? We have to put a hand up when we talk. It's like, yeah, you're 8 and you've done that for 6 years. Of course you do. Like, I'm exaggerating, but like, no one sat there going, wait, what? In that like morning lesson where you're saying we don't shout out, like taking notes, like wait, we don't shout. Okay.
Dylan. No, we do have to. You're a kid now. I'm a kid.
Okay,
Dylan, we do have to respect the class equipment.
Of course we do.
Oh my god!
Wait,
there's a class rule on the wall.
I can't believe it. I'm in year 4 now, and for the first time ever, someone's telling me that I can't get out of my seat. No, the children who shout out, the children who don't put their hands up, the children who get out of their seat, the children who cause problems aren't doing it because they're not aware of the school rules. They're doing it for a different reason, and you can deal with that, and you can have expectations. Again, I'm not against setting class rules. I've seen on transition day, people have written class rules together. I've done that before, and we've all signed a contract at the bottom. It's a really nice activity to do with your kids, right? But the best way to ensure that that happens constantly is to just do it. Get into that quality teaching, get into having those quality expectations. You show them that you have high expectations of yourself by providing them with excellent lessons and really good teaching, and that you expect from them, therefore, really high expectations with behavior. I'm not sure that those interim things have a huge effect on behavior in the long term.
I've totally gone off class rules, by the way. Like, I really, really don't like them anymore.
Really?
Like, I actually will avoid them. I
why?
Like them, unless I have to.
Why is that? Because that's like, I'm kind of indifferent, but you sound like you're against them. That's interesting.
Yeah, I've just slipped in. I'm just like, oh God, I just find it cringy now. I don't know what it is. Like, I think maybe the older kids. I don't think this applies so much to the younger. The younger you go, I think the less my opinion now applies. But it's I guess I'm thinking about teaching year 4s, 5s, and 6s, which is what I've spent my career doing. I don't know. I find it a little bit patronizing, just a little bit patronizing. Like immediately establishing this strange relationship of treating them like they're 3. So of course they know the class rules. Genuinely, of course they do. Like you said, like no child is getting to year 4, year 5, year 6 who doesn't know all of the classroom rules. They're choosing whether to follow them or not. I like to just go in really by saying, you've been here for 6 years. You know what the school rules are. My expectations, just like everybody else's. I might just say, the usual stuff. Just be respectful, whatever. This is kind of my level. This is where I'm at. I don't like shouting out. There might be some personal things, but this really annoys me. Don't do this. I don't like it when children get out of that seat when I'm in the middle of doing something. So please don't do that. That just really frustrates me. If you've got, just have respect for that. But in general, guys, just do the right thing. You know what the right thing is. And I don't know, when I go through like got these class rules, I don't know. I just think it's a bit condescending, strange.
Yeah, it's interesting. I want to like dive deeper. So do you think that your attitude is predicated on the whole school having a really strong ethos of what's expected or not? Because, there may be some situations where I know for a fact different teachers have different levels. Okay, so you have these school rules, but you may well have a class with a teacher. You're in year 6, right? So let's just say there's a class who've just been in year 5, and that teacher had a different level of what they accepted, because we can't all have the exact same level. They come up to you, you kind of don't set your stall out. You're like, guys, you know how to behave. And they're like, okay, we're going to behave just like last year. But to you, that's unacceptable. Is that fair then to kind of call them out and when it's been allowed by a teacher previously?
Yeah, I just think that's the fault of the teacher before then. If they're not even up to the standard of the school, every single school in the UK will have school rules, a culture of behavior and rules within that school. They just will. Even if it's written down or not, there will just be a culture in that school of how we behave and do things, right? So I think if you want to go further than that, like if you're even stricter, let's go the other way now. You think, oh no, I have to set the class rules because I want to go even further than these. Then I just think you're setting yourself up for. I don't think it's going to be that impactful. If I was a kid, and I was in a classroom, I already knew the school rules. I've been there for 4 years. I know exactly what I should and shouldn't be doing, right? And then I have this teacher that then puts in these extra rules. I'd be like, ooh, extra rules. I don't know. I wouldn't respect it at first. I don't think as a kid. I'd just be like, oh, here we go. I don't know. Strange. You've got school rules for a reason. Just stick to them.
I'm going to press you on it because you kind of changed my question. Which, like, is it the fault of the kids though? They've had a more lenient teacher. They've come to you. You're like, you know the school rules, guys, and then they act exactly how was allowed last year, and you're telling them off. You said it was the teacher's fault, but the kids are the ones who bear the brunt of that. Oh,
I see. Okay, so in that situation, then maybe I'd take the higher ground, and not higher ground. Sorry, I'd try not to like belittle them for not knowing something. I'd say, oh, maybe you didn't do this last year, guys. Then I might remind them of a rule. But I just don't like the activity of like sitting down and having like your 6th class rules up on the thing as if they don't know these things already. And if they happen to not know them, one, what was the teacher before doing? Because my class rules are just going to be the school rules realistically. And I might just have a word and be like, oh, your kids come up to me and in your class they said they used to throw their chairs at you. So could you maybe sort that out? They would come up to me and they start just snapping their pencils and chucking in the bin, and they thought that was okay. So I don't really think there's going to be many situations.
Look, I'm talking specifically. I'm going to clarify. We're going to get to the bottom of this. I just mean like, low level stuff where there is just that difference. Like we said last week, some teachers don't mind their kids talking whilst they're getting on with work.
Yeah, okay.
Some kids do.
Sure,
and this idea of like, the school rules, how specific are they? And I suppose the only point I'm making is that it would require really strong, clear school rules that cover a lot for us to kind of make the assumption that kids definitely know what you want in your classroom. Like, I agree with you. Like, I don't necessarily sit there and do school rules for an hour with my kids, but I try and simplify it as much as possible, and then from there set expectations as I go. I agree with that completely.
Exactly, I do it as I go. Yeah. If something seems out of line, then I would then make a thing of it and make a learning point out of it. But I just wouldn't do an activity at the start all about it. And to be fair, at the beginning of my analogy, I did say that I might introduce myself and say, look, I don't particularly like this thing. This particularly annoys me. And that might be my opportunity to just pick out some stuff that maybe I'd already seen and be like, I don't really like it when children are just chatting when they're doing their work. And I'd give a reason. I say, because I just don't think you're focusing on it. Some tasks require really deep thinking. And when you're chatting, even though it's innocent and you're not being loud, I'd rather you were just really thinking about the task, and that's just my personal preference, guys. Cheers. Other than that, be respectful. You know the rules. Let's crack on. Yeah. And that would be the extent of it. And I think children might respect that a bit more as the older they get. Younger down, I actually think my advice goes out the window, because you're actually teaching them the culture at that point. It's like you are still teaching them the school rules when they're in year 2. They don't really know how to behave yet. So maybe you have to be a bit more explicit.
I remember when I went to year 3, and this was just when we came back from COVID, and we're in a junior school, so they are brand new to the school, and we made the conscious effort, the head of year, and I completely agreed, and I thought it was a great idea to streamline the rules. And we had we basically had 2 rules, and they were on the board, and they were absolutely non-negotiable, and that was the standard. And we kind of moved from there as we went through. And those 2 rules were: you do not get out of your seat, and you put your hand, and you do not shout, you put your hand up. And it was like that simple. And it worked really well because there were 2 rules and so clear and had a picture on the board. And we were so consistent. And this is the advice I give people in September, especially if they're new. If you're going to set a rule or a standard, hold the children to it every single time. So we said, hands up if you want to talk, no shouting out was kind of the same rule. Do not get out of your seat. And, if that ever happened, it would stop. Nope. That's our rules. Okay. And not once did you let anyone get away with doing it. You weren't horrible to them. You didn't shout them down. You didn't make them feel stupid. Nope, you're in this new school. These are our 2 golden rules. And a big thing I'd say to staff, again, we're talking to all staff here, more the inexperienced staff who are looking for tips and hints. Do not budge. If you say to a child, today we are not going to talk unless you put your hand up, you have to stick with it. Because as soon as you let one child do it, cool, we can all do it.
Yeah. Do you know what I think might be the catalyst to me not really liking class rules anymore? Is an experience I had maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was at a different school that I worked at the time. And I don't know, you might be able to like knock me down a peg here with my opinion on this, right?
No, I don't.
I think there's a part of me that was just being defensive about this, about what happened. And maybe I'm justified. So I had done, just because it was just a classic thing to do, I had my class rules. And I made these 6 little posters, and 3 of them were do. They were green. It was like, do this, do that, do this. And then the other 3 were like a red color, and it was don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And between those 6 things, it was just they were like our golden rules for the classroom. Simple as that. And I got told
Can
by
I guess?
SLT.
Can I guess what were you told?
Go on.
Was
yeah,
it?
go on.
Was
go
it? Was it to not have anything that says don't?
Yeah. And I got told to take them down and replace the 3 don'ts with 3 more do's. And at that point, I was like, oh, it's not for the kids. It's just some stupid thing for the school. So we look like a certain way because that has absolutely no impact. I will argue that with anyone, there's no way that having 3 don'ts on the thing is psychologically impacting any. It's just not. It's just a thing that looks good, and for whatever reason they wanted to do it. And I was like, oh, this is completely pointless. Yeah, okay. I'll change it to those 3 things, and I'll never mention it to the kids because I actually don't care anymore, which is what I did. I didn't even remotely reference it at any point to the class. I just did what I said I always do, which is just say, just be nice, basically. And if anything comes up across the year, I'll intervene at that point and make a rule if I need to. So since then, I've never done class rules again.
Wow, you're stubborn.
I know. And I got defensive because I was thinking, what are you talking about?
It's growth mindset kind of thing, isn't it? It's a very common thing. That's how I knew what you were going to say. It's a very common thing, just in general, that apparently people are much more likely to go along with something if it's framed as an action rather than a do not, like you were told to do something. Oh no, don't do that. And you're like, what? But if someone had came in and maybe said, oh, how about doing it like this? You may have just done it like that. And like, oh, that's a good idea. So you just proving your point.
Oh man, yeah, maybe there probably is. That's what I said. I think I'm being defensive. There probably is some psychology in it, but it was one of those things where I was like, it just felt so petty. Like, really, does it really matter? Me telling the children, like, don't break the equipment rather than do respect the equipment. I get it. It does. Maybe it sounds slightly better, but it just wasn't that important. And it made me realize the whole thing is not really that important.
So before we give our top 3 tips that I've asked us to go away and do, I'm going to go through a couple of just the more really helpful ones that are quite generic, but really good to remind yourself of doing that I got from people on threads. And maybe after I say one, you can just come in with what you think, how important it is and why it's important maybe. So one I thought was really good was have the children from day one understand that it's their responsibility to leave the classroom in the same state they came into the classroom in.
Mm-hmm. I love that one. That has slipped with me the last year or 2. I don't know why, and it really annoys me. And this year I'm going to be on it again. Such a good one. I hate, and I always say to the kids, I say, what are you doing? Why are you leaving the room? That pencil's on the floor. It's under your chair. It's not mine. I don't care. It's under your chair. You're responsible for that space. I genuinely say that to the kids. I do not care if it's yours or not. I just want everyone to get into the habit of looking underneath before they go and just picking up anything that's there. It doesn't matter if it's yours or not. Just be nice. And then I'll say, some kids have the attitude of, the cleaner will do it.
Oh, I hate that.
I know.
Oh, you probably do the same thing. No, I'm sorry. It winds me up so much that if a child leaves my class at the end of the year and still has that attitude, then that's one of the things I judge myself as failing on. Like, I know, I always say, and I agree with this, I'm there to teach them things. I'm not there to anything political. I'm not there to be anything in terms of anything like that. I'm not trying to change them as people in any way that's anything anyone could argue is negative. But that's one of the things that I do. Like, be kind to people, and that includes don't fob it off on someone else just because their job is as a cleaner. It winds me up. And I always say to them, maybe you say the same thing. Their job is to clean, not tidy. They come in to clean
that's what I always say.
To clean the tables, to hoover, to clean. They're not there to pick up your rubbish.
Yeah, exactly what I say. That job is not picking up your pencil. That's your job. Okay, and if it's not your job, it falls back on me before it falls back on the cleaner. It's certainly not the cleaner's job. Definitely. Their job is to hoover, clean the tables, whatever. Yeah, well, I can't remember what the original point was now.
It was just literally, I thought it was a brilliant rule, and it's something I'm going to do when I read this, which was teach the children that you walk in the morning and see how this classroom looks. It looks like this when you leave. And that's between every lesson, going to lunch, coming back for everything.
Hold them to account. I did it really well the year before last. I don't know why I slipped, but I just did. And I was really harsh, really, really overly harsh at the start, way harsher than I thought I should be, but it worked. And I said, if something is under your chair, I don't care if I've told you to check it or not, and you leave the room, you lose your break time. Really mean. Wow. It was very mean, but it was one of those things that I knew would work. Yeah. And I knew no one was going to lose their break time. No one did. Of course they didn't. They didn't want to lose their break time.
I think
and then they just got into the habit immediately of they got into the habit very quickly of checking. It was like, cool, the whole year was great. They never left stuff on the floor. Good. Because it was like, no, I'm going to treat this really seriously, and there's really serious consequences. That's how I'm going to train you that this is so serious. Look after the space around you. I agree. What was the next one?
Next one. Very, very good one. And it kind of goes against what we said earlier. Don't do fluffy things all day. Try and get into routines as quickly as possible. I still think that's important, but one of the few things where I'm like, absolutely, this could be used as a little game, little icebreaker, because it's so important, is to try and learn your children's names as quickly as possible. That I'm bad at learning names, and I always have a concerted effort to do that. It makes such a difference when you know their name, because it's just that building block to building that relationship. It's hard to do otherwise. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Names really important. And the fluffy things, it's a big scope. It doesn't need to be lots. You can do very small, simple things to make your kids smile. And I think that's important. Very, very simple, silly little things that don't take much effort, that don't get them riled up too much to make them smile. One of my favorite things to do, and it does depend on the class, I didn't do it once with certain year groups, is just mimicking the way they reply to me in the register. I just find it funny. Like, they'll say good morning, and then whatever they say to me, I'll say to the next person. And then eventually they clock on that I'm just copying the last person's response. And it's just little things, because then they just smile, they find it funny, and it's so simple, and then they leave and whatever. So yeah, doing little fluffy things, I think they've always got a place to build nice relationships.
Do you know what? I think that's a really nice time to move on to our top tips, because my first tip, funnily enough, does quite nicely link to something you've just said. So should we play the jingle and then we can do our top tips? So yeah, in general, let's summarize actually firstly, routines, super important. Set expectations really quickly. Have high expectations. And we just said that, but have high expectations of them and yourself, because you're a fantastic teacher.
And hold them accountable.
Hold them accountable, yeah. If you're going to set a rule, if you're going to have this expectation of them, don't let it slip, because then it's not an expectation, it's a hope. And they're two different things to me. We're back, and I'm hotter than ever. Anyone's watching, it's not a very pretty sight right now for either of us. I am so hot, Aidan. What's going on? Good one. Okay, I'll say it a different way. I'm dripping with sweat. So we just said before then, we went through a lot of the tips and hints for starting off September on the right foot that people have sent in to us. A lot of them overlapped. It was, like we said, routines and things like that. But some of them overlapped with the 3 hints I've put in. So I'm going to kind of put them in with that. If you wrote into us and said anything, hopefully you can see why I might not have mentioned it so far. Hayden, you have your 3 ready, correct?
Yeah, I just glossed over them. Mine are very admin-based, actually, like really admin-y. Okay. So it might be different to yours. We'll see.
Interesting. Well, maybe we'll do one each, okay? And then when one person says it, maybe the other one can come in, or we can explain what we mean, okay?
Sure.
So okay. I've tried to be quite specific, because it's routines and stuff are very important. Everything we said before is really important. So I've tried to nail it into something maybe you could literally do in your classroom or at home this week when you start school. Okay. So number 1, use your register wisely. And what I mean by this is it's the perfect opportunity to build those relationships with your children in your class. So not only do I mean, okay, in the register each day, make up a new rule, make it funny. We don't have to be stuck in the 1930s anymore. And they say, good morning, Mr. Price, or good afternoon, sir. There's a place for that. And we still teach them to do that. But as teacher, I don't mind stepping in and saying, right, today, you're going to answer me with your favorite ever dinner. Or, you're going to answer me in your best impression of this person. It's a way to break the ice. You can do it sensibly. You can do it non-sensibly. If that's what you want, you're the teacher, you're in charge. But I find my register time, and I'm going to say it, registration in general, when the children come in, that is the number 1 time where I build 99% of my bonds. And that was a big thing that people said as well. Build relationships with your children. That is what you can do in the first term, which will have the biggest impact all year. And for me, register time, whether it's taking the register or registration, when they come through that door in the morning and they want to tell you a story from last night, you've done something right.
That's really good. It's also a great way to tell if you've got the kind of class that can have a little bit of fun, bit of silliness, and come back down immediately and contain themselves or not. So quite a good way to find that out. Whether you're going to need to put a lot of work in that year, sort of training them to actually just know the boundaries and things. Really good tip. Love doing that. Something I've always done as well.
Yeah, I think it's number 1 thing, I think over the years where I've become more and more attuned to just having the confidence to change it myself. And, they come in and read, of course they do, but I might still talk to 3 or 4 kids about the weekend. It doesn't matter if they miss 5 minutes of reading. They can catch up on that and go and sit down and do it after. I'm going to talk to my kids and build that relationship.
Yeah, I'm glad you've done something that's to do with the children stuff, because mine are really, really kind of admin based. So it should be nice. So tip number 2, get into school earlier, way earlier on one day of the week, preferably Monday, at least on your first week. And the longer you can keep this up, the better. And the reason is, and I've done this in the past for many, many years, is when you can get everything printed for the week on a Monday morning, it feels so good. The weight off your chest is unreal because it allows you to focus on other admin tasks, certainly in that first week. So if you can get yourself into a really good habit of just getting yourself in earlier on a Monday, you will not regret it. I promise you. It feels really good. Get everything printed. You're way ahead of everybody else. It's a good feeling.
I love this tip because you live by this, and I must say some of my tips I don't always do, and I'm kind of talking to myself here, like, because when I do it, it helps me. You always do this, and the only thing that's really I was going to say the only thing that really makes me laugh is that you sometimes do this, but you don't get in early. So instead, all that happens is you are clogging up the printer, taking up everyone's printer time. It's Monday, it's 8:20. I've got things to print, and Hayden's doing his whole week, and I'm like, Hayden, not now, mate. Get in at 7.
Do you want to know something funny?
Yeah.
I genuinely have never done that in the last 3 years. and for some reason, I never correct you, but for some reason, there's been a couple of times where I've just been printing a bit, like just a bigger chunk. And you've always been like, oh, here he is, knowing what I was like in the past, where I'd always come in on a Monday morning and print. And you'd be like, here he is, clogging up the printer, doing his whole week. And I'd be thinking, oh, really not. I'm just printing for today's maths for me and someone else. Listen. I just wouldn't correct you. So you're wrong, basically.
Good friends don't let the truth get in front of a good joke. Okay.
Exactly. You are enjoying the banter more than I would have enjoyed correcting you. So I saved it for the podcast. But no, it is a really good tip. I need to get back to my own advice there because I used to do it religiously on a Monday and it was so good. Everyone would get in, everyone rushing for the printer. I've had it all to myself because I got in half an hour before everybody else. Therefore, way more efficient as well. I could just get everything printed in half the time. And then I'd just spend the rest of the morning, if I had the time, just trimming everything, getting it all ready. It was great. Feels good.
Quality. Right. I'm going to go with my one now. So we're going to have 6 in total. So this next one, tip number 3, have non-negotiable time for yourself booked in during your first week and then every week from then on. And what I mean by this is be strict with yourself. So it could be, for me, Tuesday night, 7 to 8, I'm playing football 5-a-side. Nothing's going to get in the way of that. Because I think earlier in your career, it's very easy to let things kind of slip in. Oh, I've got to take this marking home tonight. I'm sorry, guys. I can't come. No. Have a non-negotiable time for you. We do enough outside of school time. Set yourself that amount of time, whether it might be reading a book for an hour before bed from 8 till 9. Set it and do it. Because I tell you what, whether we like it or not, whether we're tired or not, we get up and get into work, don't we? That's a non-negotiable because it's someone else setting that expectation for us. Be as kind to yourself as you are to other people. Set yourself a bit of time. Say you're going to do this thing that you like doing and make sure you do it. Whether it's a drag or not, or whether you think you can get rid of it, just do it.
Yeah. Brilliant tip. I do that now as well. I have a bit of time every week where I'll do a certain thing. So I quite like playing games with my friends. So I'll have a night. And every night it's like, yeah, we go online. Because I don't get to, as you get older, you know what it's like, you don't get to see your pals as much when you're young. And it's like, yeah, we all go online and we chat and we play a game. And it's so nice because that's my downtime. And it's like, no, every week, set time, can't be disturbed. I don't book anything on that night because I know it's that night. They all do the same. It's really good.
But if something came up at work, right? And it was like, oh, guys, Hayden, it would be really great if you can get this done tonight. You've got to have the power to, no, I'm doing this. Because you see so many people, you see so many people say, oh yeah, okay. And they cancel their plans. Don't do it. You know, every now and then in exceptional circumstances, sure, maybe some reason, but just set that time, guys. It's valuable. You are valuable. Do it.
Yeah. Like the best way to do about it, to deal with that in your mind is like, don't undervalue your time. Is there something, if someone says, if you've got that big thing you've got to do it this night now. Oh, can you do this? Is there a scenario where you would be able to say no? Oh, actually, I really can't do it tonight because of this thing.
Yes.
Whatever that thing is, pretend that's the thing that you're actually doing. Because if you are okay with saying no to it for that reason, then you should be okay with saying no to it because it's your personal time that you've already scheduled in. Very good. I'm going to move on to tip number 4. Tip number 4 is something you can do now, I guess. So I want you to think of one thing or more. Doesn't have to be one, but try to start with one that you didn't do last year. So this only works, I guess, if you've been teaching. If you haven't been teaching at all, then maybe you can think back to your training year. One thing that you just didn't do, that didn't move from your to-do list, either all year or just took far too long to get done on your to-do list, and prioritize it now. Get it done. Either make solid plans to get that thing done, whatever that thing is that didn't move. Maybe it was boring, you didn't want to do it. and just do that thing now. Get it done early. Kind of like my last tip, getting things done early. It makes me feel really good. For example, it might be like there's a display that all year you were like, oh, I'm going to do that. And then just something else always come up. Prioritize that. Try to get it done in your first week. Just get it done. And then it's done. You know, it might be changing your tray labels. It's just one of those jobs. It's boring. I don't want to do that. But just get it done first week. Then you'll feel good because it's been done the whole time. Sorting out the folders on your USB. That's a classic one. It feels good. No one wants to do it. It's annoying. You have to sit there and delete things and move things and copy stuff and rename things. Get it done. Fresh start of the year. It feels good. What's the saying?
Eat the frog. I've been waiting this whole time. It's called Eat the Frog.
Eat what?
Oh, what are you talking about?
No, I was thinking like, you know, that, oh my God, what's the saying? I can't think of it. The idiom about
what do you mean?
Like a cluttered mind, cluttered space, right? You know, when it's like clear the space around you because it helps you keep your mind clear as well. What's that? What's the saying?
It's just called clear desk, clear mind. That's like literally it. It's like,
yeah, something like that. I don't know if there's an actual specific saying, but it's that idea, you know, like get that annoying little job done that you kept pushing back in your to-do list and just do it now. That's what were you talking about? Eat the frog. What are you listening to what I'm saying?
Eat the
you
frog.
zoned out and you're like, eat the frog. What are you talking about?
I'm dying. Eat the frog. Eat the frog's the saying. It's like, do the worst job straight away. Eat the frog. No one wants to eat the frog. Eat the frog, and then you get to have everything else that's good. That's hilarious.
So like, eat the broccoli. Eat the broccoli off your plate. Eat the vegetables first. That kind of thing, right? Save the bit you like.
I guess so, but it's eat the frog because eating a frog is disgusting. No one would ever want to eat a frog, but you've got to eat the frog at some point, so you might as well do it right now, and then it's out of the way. That's so funny.
Wow, that was the worst tip ever. Let's move on.
The idea that you didn't know what I was talking about, and I've said eat the frog.
Yeah, I was like, he's heard nothing I've said. Yeah, brilliant.
Okay, right. Tip number 5: get your dinners, your meals, your lunches prepped the weekend before you start, especially for week 1. Just get it done on the Sunday. Do some meal prep, get them in the fridge, 5 Tupperware boxes. You don't have to think about it again. If you're anything like me, you are completely disorganized when it comes to anything that's almost like looking after yourself and giving yourself a helping hand. Okay. I would in the morning take 15 minutes extra in bed if I don't have to get up and prep my lunch. So if that job's done for me in past Dylan, this is almost like eating the frog again. On the Sunday, spend an hour and a half meal prepping for the whole week. Put them in your fridge. Don't think about it again. In the morning, pick it up, go. And it has such an impact because not only have you saved time in the morning, if you didn't eat your lunch in the morning, you're thinking, well, that's not saved me time. I didn't prep my lunch in the morning anyway. Well, actually what it's done is at lunchtime, you go to the staff room. 1, you have a proper dinner, a proper lunch in front of you that's nutritious and helps you. But number 2, you get to actually see your colleagues. Teaching is an isolating job and I'm the worst for it. I don't spend any time in the staff room because I'm probably on my way to the shop to get some lunch. I come back and I've got to prep my afternoon lesson. It's just one of these things where it has so many benefits. Lots of people do this already. You're probably thinking, Dylan, are you a child? Of course I prep my lunch. But just don't do it in the morning of because it just doesn't happen for me. If you're anything like me, get your meals prepped. One less thing to worry about. You can talk to your friends at school. You don't have to be around children all day because it is very tiring. You can have those adult conversations over your lunch and then go and get your stuff sorted.
Oh, catch the worm. Catch the worm. That's what they call that.
Oh, yeah. The early teacher catches the bird. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Well, moving on then to my last tip. Tip number 6. You could do this again right now, actually. Think of 3 to 5 things that happen in your classroom regularly that annoy you. That's something that disturbs your teaching routine that you can control. So I'm not talking about like people walking into your classroom and asking for a child. That's going to happen. You just got to get used to that. It's annoying. I'm talking about things like, the procedures, like when a child has a drink. How does that happen in your classroom? Because if you just think about them now, they're not those annoying things that you suddenly have to solve on the spot and then maybe put in place a sub, optimal system because you're just trying to quickly solve it in the spot. How do children have a drink in your class? Think of it now, and then you can set that procedure like straight away. How does a child get a new glue? They've run out. Is it putting their hand up with you talking and then saying, all right, I need another glue? Because that is so infuriating. Think of another system. How do they sharpen a pencil? Can they just get up and do it? Do you have a different system? They have to do this, they have to do that. Just try to think of 3 to 5 or even more things that are just annoying and disturb your flow in teaching. Solve them now, and then just set those expectations with the kids. This is how you do it in the class. Don't have class rules. That's different.
I was going to jump on this right now.
I know. I guess at your face.
I don't call them class rules, but I don't like them very much. But I have them.
Yeah, these can be class rules. They're not the school rules rehashed. They're actually just things about how to get stuff done.
They're just rules around
Seamless
the classroom.
things.
I don't know about.
They're just rules around the classroom. We call them. What do we call them in my classroom? We call them.
Don't not get up and get yourself a pencil. Don't not do this, please.
I've absolutely rinsed myself here, haven't I?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm not going to lie. That whole conversation, I was like, "What is this guy on about? He doesn't. I know he has class rules. What is he talking about?"
Yeah.
And my top
I guess
tip,
I just don't
go against everything I've just said. That's my top tip, number 6.
Yeah. Okay. Let's clarify this right now, here and now, forever. But earlier on, I was talking about school rules being rehashed. They know how to behave, but procedures in your class, definitely go for it. They might not be written on the wall, but set those procedures. But think about them now, because I don't know about you, Dylan, but when I'm on the spot, I would just think of a rubbish.
Yeah,
I'll set some precedent. Yeah. A kid will ask something, I've not thought about it. I'm trying to teach a lesson. I'll quickly give them an answer, and then I've set some expectation that I've then got to undo because I've realised, 3 days later, what have I done? Why have I let this kid do this thing? This is really annoying now.
I completely agree.
So yeah, just think, what do you do? Kids want to go to the toilet. What's the procedure in your classroom?
Yeah, and be consistent.
They need a new book.
It comes in with that, doesn't it? Being consistent as well, because especially things like toilets and things like and drinks. You don't want to seem unfair at all, but it might just be in the moment because you've not set that precedent and set that class rule, right? That you set in your class, which is a rule, because you've not done that really clearly. Then suddenly, on the spot, you might make up a different rule. Oh, after you've done 3 questions, and then half an hour later, because you're not as stressed, half an hour later, you might go, "Yeah, of course you can." And that kid's obviously sat there going, "Well, I'm just thirsty. I just want a drink, please."
Yeah, I had to do 3 questions. What's that about? Sometimes these things can change as well. Like, don't be hard on yourself when in 2 months' time you want to change it. Like, I know one thing I did before. I was trying to get rid of all those really annoying things. I was trying to make everything seamless so that when I'm teaching, there's like minimal disruptions and kids can just be autonomous and do things themselves. So I put all of my years worth of glue sticks in a tray. And it's such a fatal error. I think people will be, if you've been teaching, you'll be shaking your head.
No, they're already shaking their head earlier when you say you don't do class rules. They're still shaking.
And then told them to do class rules. But as you can imagine, what happened was the glues went faster than ever. They disappeared. So many glues got wasted, lost lids, rather than a child looking after the glue sticks, which are precious in any school. It was just, just get new ones out of the tray or whatever. They didn't respect the equipment in that way. So that's me thinking I'm being, this is like autonomous now, seamless. It actually backfired massively and I never did it again. So don't be afraid to try things, but also you might want to change it after a while if it doesn't quite work for your class.
You might want to put like a rule up on the board that says respect equipment in the classroom. That might help.
Don't put glues in the bin just because you've lost the lid.
Don't not look after your glues. Just do double negatives everywhere.
God. Do you get like this unique feeling in your chest now when you see a glue that's like rolled up, it's maybe 3/4 full and it's completely hard where the lid's been left off overnight and you're like, oh my God.
You know, the number one thing is they just don't screw them down. Even if they put the lid on, it's like glue, get the glue up like an inch above. And it's like this perfect nectar of the gods there ready to stick in the sheets. And they stick it in and they're like, okay. Either they don't put the lid on or they just squish it on and you're like, oh my God, that's good glue.
That's even worse.
That's good glue. I'd rather you not put the lid on.
Let's keep talking about glues for a minute here because I think we can relate to a lot of people. What about when they've glued something like glitter or something that's like really messy and it goes then all over the glue stick itself and then the next kid goes to use it and it's like pink and got glitter all over it and they're like, I don't want to use that one, so they chuck it away.
Easy win here. Don't use glitter. I think a lot of classrooms don't now because it's not very eco-friendly. Don't use glitter. Just don't do it. I know glitter's nice.
It's a nightmare.
It's not necessary. Don't do it.
Doesn't hoover up. Honestly, trying to hoover up, depending on what carpets you got, it's also a nightmare.
Literally. Right.
We're going to quick win. I'm still going.
Okay.
I'm still going.
Okay.
Quick win with glue sticks, right?
Okay, we're talking about glue still.
Yeah. We're talking about glue sticks now. I've not done that before. Cool. Just a temporary fix for a glue that's not got a lid, right? Not got any lids around. Just screw it right down, turn it upside down, leave it on the table. It's just as fine as a lid until you can get yourself a lid. You don't need to be like, there's no lids around. You just got to chuck it tomorrow. It's not hard. I always do that. The amount of glue sticks will just be upside down on my side.
I was going to say, so much for clean desk, clean mind for you. You got a glue stick for Forest.
Yeah. Until we find the lids.
That's a good tip though. I've never would have thought to do that. Anyway, we digress.
Just stops them going hard.
Yep, it does indeed. So, new tip: make a glue forest on your desk if you've not got any glues. Absolutely perfect. Hayden, I enjoyed that. I think it was really nice to get lots of ideas from people on threads. A lot of them overlapped. I think we're all on the same page. You know, teachers know what to do with their kids. They know what's important. So I'm really looking forward to going back, and I'm hoping to act on our own tips. How many out of the 6 do you think you're going to go for? I think 2 probably.
I'm glad you said that because I got to the end and I was like, I don't really do any of these things anymore. I really should.
It's been a good...
Given these tips from like 3 years ago me, and I'm like, I kind of slipped out of these habits. I need to do these things.
I'll tell you what, the number one thing from other people when I asked them that really stuck with me, because I know routines are important and people say, of course it is. But it really was the tidy classroom thing. That is one thing I'm going to say right now to everyone. I'm going to really try and stick to that this year. And that is you simply have to keep this classroom tidy all the time, because I'm going to try and do it as well. I'm not the tidiest person on my desk, I'm not going to lie. So, yeah. I've got 17 glasses. I've actually only got one, which is the one I've been drinking from. You must be quite proud.
Wow.
And, of course, my hat.
The hat. You know what is starting to slip there, Dylan?
What's that?
You know what is starting to slip? I'm gonna embarrass you live on the podcast.
Oh, here we go.
Live. Your car. I'm telling you off. Your car's starting to slip. It's getting messier again.
What do you mean? My car has got nothing in it right now.
Is it? Has it though?
It used to be bad. But I'll tell you now, and I have to put this on Instagram now to prove to the people, because my car's obviously not in my office.
Okay, all right.
It's not, Hayden. Come on.
Well, okay, all right. To be fair, the last few times I've been in the back, it's been all right. But when I've been in the front, get back to your old habits. There's glasses on the floor. No,
a little half-empty bottle of Coke.
Yeah. You know the saying. Clean car, clean mind.
You know the saying. You know the saying. Eat the Nissan Qashqai. It's simple. Okay,
and catch the bird.
Right, let's stop here. We've done enough now, guys. Hopefully you found this really useful, and if you're not a teacher, hopefully you put up with it long enough to enjoy it. You like the banter and stuff. Very quickly before we go, had a message from Instagram, because we said last week we talked about all of the different countries that we are currently streaming in. Hayden, do you remember how many?
I don't, but it was like 30 odd.
It was 33, and this week we're up to 36. 36.
Wow.
It basically means that this podcast...
3 whole countries of listeners.
Yeah. What? 36. And we mentioned Zambia. And we were like, that's so good. Zambia's up there. And we got a message this week from someone who teaches in Zambia. Because I don't know about you, I just think to myself...
That's cool.
You know, we're not going to reach that far. But this person messaged us, sending a shout out to you both from Zambia. Thank you for the great podcast. I really look forward to it each week. The topic and guests have been super. I teach in an international school in Lusaka where we follow the British national curriculum. And I forgot. Of course, international schools are a thing, and they just follow our curriculum.
Yeah,
they're all over the globe, so maybe that's a big chunk.
I wonder how different that is.
Yeah,
as well. Like, I wonder how different it is. There's going to be differences, even though it's the same curriculum. Yeah. That'd be a cool thing to talk about in the future.
Ooh, maybe we get an international guest on, shall we? Mr. Worldwide Pitbull is very jealous right now. Mr. Worldwide. Anyway. Guys, get in touch. And this is my last. If you've made it this far and you haven't given us a 5-star review where you get your podcast, please do, because you've made it this far. We must be all right, mustn't we? We don't really have a sponsor or anything, so we're going to beg you, because it really helps us. Hayden, did you enjoy this lesson? I'm already back in teacher mode. Did you enjoy this lesson?
I loved this lesson. It was really nice sharing our tips and making me think about the stuff I can start doing next week when I get ready for school.
Guys, catch you next time. Bye.